morning with the train and the traffic and everywhere else. So thank y'all for making the extra effort to join us today. And especially we have guests here who drove in from Huntsville and from Houston. So we really appreciate you guys having patience with New Waverly today. So hopefully everyone has signed in and gotten your handouts. I have an agenda and I have minutes from our last meeting, copies of those, as well as I put in, a lot of you that have been to our meetings will probably recognize some of these handouts on the table. They are from our previous meetings, but had so many extras. And for those of you that may have missed one or two of those meetings, I wanted to lay those out so that you can grab a few if you'd like. So today is our last meeting for the school year. So again, thank y'all very much for coming. And I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And then I'm going to give you guys a minute to look over the minutes, and then we'll look at a motion for approving and then any amendments that need to take place. So if you'll just glance over those for me, please. Good morning. We're just reviewing minutes right now, so you guys timed it perfect. Okay. Okay, it looks like everyone's been able to cover the minutes. All right. So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our February meeting.
I move to approve the minutes for February's meeting.
All right, so Mr. Reese approves, Ms. Brock seconds. And any amendments or any further discussion? All right, so the minutes have been approved. Okay. So we have a pretty full meeting today. I have invited 3 presenters or 3 speakers to talk to you guys today. So we're going to let them go first, and then I'll fill you guys in at the end about reports and just kind of how we're wrapping up the year. So I'm going to introduce Melissa. She's going to start us off, and interesting way that we were connected is that I don't know if you guys remember Dane Bossert. He's from DSHS, Department of State Health Services in Houston, and he does come to our meetings regularly. He couldn't make it today because he's traveling to another location, but he sat in on a presentation that Melissa gave, and he emailed me and he said you'd be a really great presenter for your SHAC group. So I was really excited to hear that. He was real impressed with her presentation. So Melissa, I'm going to go ahead and let you present and introduce yourself and what your background is.
Should I stand up or hang out over here?
Either way, whatever's comfortable.
Okay, I'm probably gonna like stand over here so I can see the screen.
Okay.
Fairly well, and I'll let y'all put for me if that's okay.
This the one. Oh, sorry.
There we go. Yes. So I'm Melissa Roman here, and I'm the regional evaluator, data coordinator for Prevention Resource Center for Region 6. The Public Health Region 6, we're housed over at the Council on Recovery. You can go ahead and change it to the next slide. Yeah, so we are, agency that is housed over at the Council on Recovery. We're part of the prevention department, at the Council on Recovery. And so part of our prevention department is our youth prevention services, which look very much like these wonderful individuals over here, and actually was one of them, before y'all stole her from us. On that left side, so talking about youth prevention services. And then over on the right side, you see our prevention resource center. And our prevention resource center, some of the things that we do through the prevention resource center is organize, coordinate and facilitate the training. So like the curricular trainings or any of the kind of trainings that the prevention providers in public health region 6 need in order to implement their programs. And also for us, we all, just as prevention providers, we all are required to have our certain CEUs that are all of the same as well on prevention. We focus more on supporting the community level type efforts with the Prevention Resource Center. And one of those, I guess, parts of supporting our community level folks is, in my part, is through procurement and reporting out on data, substance use trends in youth, and also other indicators of risk factors and protective factors for substance use in youth. And so that's me down there at the left. Data coordinator, we have a public relations coordinator, and also we have a tobacco coordinator that works on compliance checks all throughout Region 6. Visits retailers on a daily basis. I think she's required to do like 200 a month. And their compliance checks, not necessarily to go get them in trouble, the retailers, but make sure they've got everything in place so that when somebody comes in to see if they have everything in place, that they've got everything and they know about the signage and everything they're supposed to have. But that's about all I know about the tobacco part. Next slide. I'll stick with my data part. So we like I said, we try our best to support community efforts in our 13 counties in Region 6. A big part of what we do is support our community coalition, and our we've got 9 community prevention, substance abuse prevention coalition. We don't have any up north up here, and so anytime we get invited at north of I-10, we're super excited about that, because we we try to figure out ways of reaching out and stuff up here. And I'm not even sure if we've got services in, what county are we in right now? Walker. And so we do have services in Walker County, but we don't have a prevention coalition, which is what we usually work with as far as the PRC goes. So we really are excited when we get invited to meetings like this. We do the same thing with Liberty County. I think Liberty County has an agri-life extension situation going on over there. Our directives with the Prevention Resource Center and a lot of the grants. So there are 10 more of me across the state of Texas. And we focus on 4 priority substances. And so the 4 priority substances, and I am going really fast because I want to get through some of the things that I need to get there. And so I'm going to try to Celeste is going to forward the presentation on to you guys. And I did not PDF it for the purpose of, I want y'all to be able to click on the link that I've included as well. So underage drinking, tobacco, and other nicotine products, and I'm going to emphasize more now nicotine products, marijuana, and prescription drugs. Okay, thank you. Our biggest, I guess, product or just the information is what we all come to the party for. with regards to reporting out on substance use trends. So HHSC is contracted with the Public Policy Research Institute at A&M University. We as the PRC also liaise with campuses in order to administer the Texas School Survey. And that Texas School Survey, the biggest or the most important information that we pull from there is consumption patterns. So the consumption patterns of the kids, how they report out on their substance use, but other things like perception of their parents' attitudes and beliefs towards substance use, or whether or not they think that their peers are using, you know, how the availability of it. How many times did I go to a party this year where there was alcohol, marijuana, and or nicotine products? We usually start out with 75 schools that are randomized for us to begin liaising with within the 13 county region. And what we usually end up having to report out on is a combination of the data that comes from Region 5 and 6, as opposed to just Region 6, because we need to be able to have about 14 campuses in order for that data to be for the effect size to be high enough for us to be able to say valid and reliable data. So we usually, up until this point, and for several years, we've had to merge our data with Region 5-6. You wouldn't think that would be the case, especially with HISD in our region, but HISD and some of our other larger districts don't participate in the Texas School Survey. They either have their own survey that they've developed, or some of them participate in the national, I think, administration of the Youth Behavior Risk Survey Surveillance System, which is the YRBS, which asks them a lot of the similar questions. So you can go ahead. So that link takes you to the Texas School Survey. That's the next slide. And I'm just gonna, I didn't know I had a cookie thing on there, sorry. And so, yeah, that's it. And I'm gonna try to go through the data part real quick, because I want to get to the link that kind of help to emphasize what you can look for and things like that. I realized, and I was telling Celeste this, I was presenting for a group of principals a couple weeks ago, and I did only stuck with the data, and I got to the end, they're like, well, how do we know what to look for? And I was like, at first I said, well, the landscape is changing so quickly, and you know, it's really a matter of staying on top of education on these things, which some of our actually all of our coalitions, the prevention coalition, as well as your prevention specialists, are responsible for that type of awareness and education. But I also realized I needed to include that along with the data here. So usually when we ask the kids, the consumption pattern is a couple of questions, right? And I'm going to direct your attention to the left, the graph on the left, which is for Region 5-6. I always put Texas next to Region 5-6. A lot of times we're a little bit higher than Texas. Region 5-6 as a whole is a little bit higher when we look at percentages of kids reporting out. But not all the time, but many times they're usually like a few percentage points a little bit higher. What we ask the kids is, you see up there, the orange line is lifetime, and then 30 days, the blue line there. We ask the kids, have you ever tried this, like even once in your lifetime, like even when you were 8 years old at your cousin's wedding? Yes, we want to know that, because that is early initiation and age of initiation. So early initiation is anything, I think, before 12, 13. I want to say anything younger than 13 is considered early initiation, right? And so those questions are important, right? That those are huge predictors of further substance use. And then the 30-day, we ask the kids, have you used this particular substance within the past 30 days? It's indicative of a more consistent consumption pattern. And so you can see, I'm just going to focus on 2020 here. For alcohol is most accessible. Obviously, substance around. It's probably in most people's houses. It's not my house because I'm in recovery. But it's probably in most kids' homes, right? So, you know, at least half of kids, that's 55.4% up there, say, I've tried it at least once in my lifetime. And then about almost 30% there say I've used it within the past 30 days. And of course, this is grades 7 through 12. When you parcel those out, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those they go from lower to higher as you get closer to graduation. That's fine. Thing. Okay, and so sometimes it's also I know folks like to be able to see data just on how it within a population, right? And some of these I use emojis to illustrate. For alcohol, I couldn't find something that was more specific to alcohol, so I just use little people here. But emojis are a big way that kids and dealers, communicate with regards to their substance purchases instead of putting it into words. So I try to incorporate those emojis on there, but the whole emoji situation is a training in and of itself. It's pretty, and y'all probably know. Yes, and so if you see a plug, a picture of an electrical plug on your kid's phone, you should be alarmed because that plug is a dealer. Okay, so within the past, let's see, within the past, what's my time? How long have I been doing?
12 minutes.
Huh?
12 minutes.
12 minutes. Okay, good. I have 20. About 20. Okay, good. All right, I'm gone. Okay, so about, like I said, 50% of kids as in 2020, this is year 2020, that they try within the past or once in their life, and then 3 out of 10 have reported drinking within the past 30 days. Some of the things I wanted to, right, when we think about alcohol, it's regulated. So I told Celeste, and just based on questions that I've had from school district people, they're wanting to know a lot about fentanyl. They're wanting to know about how fentanyl gets into things. Alcohol is one substance that I talked about that is, like, I guess, purely regulated. It does a lot of damage to the human body and consuming it over long periods of time. However, it is regulated, so it's, with the exception of like alcohol poisoning and things like that, it's not something that's going to kill you immediately, like something that's contaminated with fentanyl. However, one of the things that I can talk about is ordinances, so social hosting ordinances, especially in our coastal areas. We have social hosting issues, which is parents renting a condo basically at spring break and prom, and having a bunch of kids, and the drinking takes place. There are social ordinances, I want to say, in San Antonio and El Paso, but those are very difficult to get in place. And Galveston, I know, has attempted and not succeeded as of yet. Mock bedroom. So there's or I should have said this at first. I have to get out of the PowerPoint. There, actually, no, just stay there. Just stay there. You're good. Because you guys have this document as well. It's a Word document. And so one of our coalitions does a mock bedroom, mock teenage bedroom. And it is they set it up with all of these things that kids hide their stash in plain sight. That includes alcohol, but other things. It could be anywhere from a water bottle to where this section of it, you see behind here, opens up and you could stash it, and it's kind of, you can't really tell that it opens up and it looks like a bottle of water. There's and I just am looking at that picture right there and having seen this presentation many, many times, and y'all look at the document that has like all of these things. There's an Amazon T thing where the top screws off and you put your stash in there. There are watches that are grinders for marijuana, for at least the plant matter of marijuana. There are just all kinds of things, you know, as far as vaping goes, hoodies and that conceal and you can, you know, vape and detect it or as detected as you can through these tubes that are in the laces of the hoodies, or you can just buy the laces and put in there, so it looks like it goes with the hoodie. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's computer mouse, which is a scale, but it's also a working mouse. I mean, just it's mind blowing, all of the things. And you get half of it, or if not all of it, you can buy on Amazon, right? Yes, I'll let y'all, Celeste is gonna send that out to you guys. And yes, if you wanna, go and look in your kid's room and see if you see any of these things, that's hopefully you will not find them. But yes. Our second one, substance tobacco. And so, when I started over at the council, which was 2016, we actually were not, we were no longer presenting out on tobacco per se, because it looked like it had dropped. Look at 2014, right? However, in 2014, we did start, or the Public Policy Research Institute did start noticing that there were other things going on. And although they asked the question about vaping, they did not require us to start including it in our reporting out until 2018, till we were sure that it was going up. And not only that it was going up, if you could go to the next slide, that, that was, so that was like, if you see that orange dot at the end on 2020, so that is 30%. So the other, on the other side, it's at 33%. So the 30 up to 33% is vaping products, right? And so vaping products, and of course you have orange line, like I said, they've tried it at least once. And then the blue line, they've tried it, or they've used it within the past 30 days. So almost 13% of the state reported vaping within the past 30 days within Region 6. On to the next one. There we go. And there's my little, so chasing clouds is a word or a term for vaping. There's a whole culture behind it. The emojis are clouds, obviously. And then once again, it's just a different way of reporting or illustrating or visualizing the data. So, about 3 out of 10, about 30% of kids have reported trying it at least once in their life, right? And then within the past 30 days, they're about, like I said, 13%. Thank you. So some of the things that I kind of just alluded to up here, a lot of the production of e-juice or e-liquid is not necessarily regulated like Juul and Puff Bar products. So those are kind of like your single serve things, right? They're cheap, they're easy to get. They're disposable. They look like they don't look like my thumb drive, which is Sylvester, but they look like your regular, thumb drives a lot of times, because you can plug them into your computer or whatever power source to charge them. However, when you're looking at the e-liquids, like if you go into a product, that's where you run into the e-liquids, and those e-liquids a lot of times, well, actually, when we had that whole rash of kids who were ending up at Texas Children with the lung issues. It was because of the product being not necessarily because it included THC, but because the person who or whoever was manufacturing or producing it, whatever you want to call it, I was using vitamin E or propylene glycol. So those might be approved for consumption, but they're not approved for inhaling. And they do bad things to the lungs. And there are nurses here, I'm sure y'all know way more about that than I do. However, anytime you're starting to introduce THC, obviously that might have our resource. So I don't want to I don't know more than he does about that also. However, anytime you're introducing anything that's unregulated substances, your producer, your dealer, you have someone who is interfering with the product, right? And so what, they're finding, and although it's not as popular as the fake pill, which I'll talk about in a minute, there's always that potential for the introduction of fentanyl. Fentanyl fentanyl is if it doesn't kill you, it will bring you back for a really good addiction. And by good, I don't mean good. If it doesn't kill you, it creates clients, right? And so there's one potential. I told Celeste I would try to work in, what we're seeing with fentanyl being introduced into the things that we're worried about the kids using in the first place anyway, right? Those that are perceived to be most available and accessible to the kids. I'm sorry if you don't mind going back. Oh, sorry about that. There's a link on there. A couple of years ago, we did a vaping summit at the council, and I like researched several forums and put together like a picture glossary of everything vaping and going into THC. Many of the vaping, what do you call it, devices, vape and also use your THC in the same vape pens, right? Okay. Okay, so marijuana, it's lower than the others, but it's also kind of, as of 2020, kind of going up a little bit. We saw a 4%, about 4% increase, as far as trying it at least once in our life. And remember, just one try of anything, if it's contaminated with fentanyl, there's a potential for instant fatal interaction with it, right? A lot of the kids, like when we ask the questions of, what do your parents think about kids your age using this? You'll see it a little bit, the agree part questions that are answered, they'll be a little bit higher than the other substances, which is interesting in some cases. So one thing to caution about the 2020 data, and again, that's Region 5 that is also that 2020 data came from the very beginning of COVID. So our sample size for the state of Texas, much less Region 5 and 6, was about 30% what it was in past years. So that's always something to take into consideration. And so our next year, which is 2022 data, will be interesting to see as next one. And again, the rocket is emoji symbol for getting high, right? So 1 in 4 kids have reported trying it at least once. 3 in 20, consuming within the past 30 days, and on to the next. And so with marijuana, THC, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 9 is the illegal one. Delta 8, and I'm not even sure, I've never tried the Delta 8, but Delta 8 is, I'm not even sure if it's a product that produces what you're thinking you're going to get as a high in the first place. But it is just legal. I mean, nothing is, Delta 9 is illegal, or you can probably speak to that better than I can. Delta 8 is still accessible, right? You can still purchase it. But my understanding is much like other things like hemp products that are not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, but are out there, right? They are legal to purchase. Extraction process. So I don't know if many of you are familiar with the extraction process. The big problem with marijuana, I think nowadays, is the high levels, the high concentration of THC, and what we see in the dabs, butter, wax, shatter, things like that. And the way they make it is they've got like a giant PVC pipe, the bottom is closed off. They pack it full of the plant matter of the marijuana plant, fill it with, usually butane is cheap and easy to use. Although I did see some guys, a YouTube video of some guys in Canada that use rubbing alcohol. So I don't know if it's supposed to be better for you or what. But yeah, so, you know, they suck it, it pulls out the THC from the plant, and they open up the bottom, I guess filter it, comes out, they usually, the videos that I saw, it comes out like on a, what do you call it, like a Pyrex dish, and usually they have to let the gas evaporate off of it, and it starts to form a harder substance, which ends up being some of these products. One of the things that we learned is that usually like is that butane gas is heavy and it's clean. And sometimes if the spark is lit, then the whole room, like, or living quarters goes up, explodes. And shatter is if you let it, I think, evaporate to the point where it gets like really hard. It's like almost like a peanut roll-ish, or, you know, like it breaks, like shatter. Right, and my guess is they use some type of solvent, you know, to introduce it into their vape pen, or however they're going to. They could, you know, put it into liquid form. They spray, that's how edibles are made. They spray it onto the edible, so your gummy bears, your whatever, spray it onto that, and yeah, the dosing is an issue with THC, because I want to say like 2.5 milligrams, something like that, is a dose, but they usually start at 5. So, yeah, serving size on the package is 5. And so already the dosing is not consistent with like the serving size. Yes, logistics, the marketing of the products to the kids, it's, you know, Cheetos, but you can only have like one Cheeto, and who only eats one Cheeto? You know, it's anything, Cheetos, gummy bears, lollipops, all kinds of stuff. You name it, it's that. And the big thing with that is that the THC is so high in that it does cause some issues. So I want to say some psychosis issues. You know, it's highly associated with emergence, I think, of schizophrenic issues, things like that. There's something called hyperesis, which I have been told is called scromedy. So that is after prolonged use of the high levels of THC. Screaming and vomiting at the same time is what the ER personnel have called it. It's cyclical. You know, it's not withdrawal, it's after using it, you know, repeat, for a long time. Yeah. And then also, again, anytime you got something illegal, you've got something that has been, and someone else has had their hands in it, and possible introduction of fentanyl. And they have found that, you know, fentanyl introduced into those products. And now I'm going to go to the prescription drugs, and then prescription drugs, we're usually worried about prescription drugs because we were worried about that initiation to opioids and the dependence on opioids, right? So if you were injured or you broke your leg, or, you know, you had to have your hip replaced like I did, you know, that usually has been an issue, is the lower of the substances. However, I've got another what is it, graphic later on that I don't think we're going to get to, but just so you know, like 50% of the kids who report getting pain relievers, or what they think are pain relievers, usually get it from a family member, friend or family member. They either steal it, are given it, or buy it from their family member. So it's about 50%, and, you know, not prescribed to specifically by a doctor, like getting it from your friend. And again, 18% report having used it at least once. We live in a very pill-centered culture. You know, if I have a headache, my husband, in our house, right, and I'm in recovery, my husband be like, "Did you take something?" So and that's very much how our I think pills are seen as being less harmful. That's like the next. Again, those are graphic. At least 1 in 5 kids have said, "I've tried it at least once." At least once can also, you know, what we're learning. I work very closely with Wendell Campbell, who is our Houston High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. He's our drug information officer. A lot of times he'll come with me to the presentations, and sometimes he'll throw the slides up there of the field presses and things like that. The biggest thing that I can analogy that I can describe I guess illustrates, how fentanyl is mixed into pills by counterfeit pills by somebody in their garage, right? Is that the fentanyl, when it is, you can think of it like chocolate chips. You're making chocolate chip cookies, and sometimes the chips will kind of cluster together. So you might get one cookie that's got like 7, chocolate chips in it, or you might have one cookie that has like 1 or none chocolate chips in it. And it took like 3 chocolate chips to kill you, right? And so it's really difficult to determine, what, especially in that fake pill supply. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen the news of when they do make the seizures and the pills that are being produced. They're pills that look like Adderall, and then they go to make Xanax, and they use the same pill presses, and whatever they were putting in the pill before that kind of contaminates the next batch, especially if you're putting fentanyl in it. And I definitely wanted to get to this slide, so I'll be finished with this. But Celeste did ask me about naloxone training and things like that, and so I'm going to end with this. Y'all still have the other slides with the links that y'all can click on. And I highly recommend that y'all, or not highly recommend, gentle recommendation that to click on those, because there's lots of great resources that I just don't have time to go through right now, but I think that are very beneficial to you guys. I'm gonna have you click on the fentanyl poisoning. Before that, Texas Picture documentaries. We worked with DEA in November, and I'm putting on a family summit. So we invited families who lost loved ones to fentanyl poisoning to come and work with us in Texas Pictures and producing what we're hoping will be an overall documentary. But each family got to film their story, and those are some crushing videos as well. There's one mom who is her name, Kim Gillihan, and she does lots of events, and man, they knew her son had substance issues, and so they had a security camera always on his door, and so it shows her finding him as part of her. She wanted that to be part of her video that she made, and that was crushing. And she's probably the most vocal that I've seen so far, but there are lots that are vocal about what's going on. So I'll let you play the fentanyl poisoning. It's only like a 2 or 3. Sorry, I hope it didn't. I'm not going over too much. If you click on that, that is Dr. Joy Alonso. She's the professor I told you about in pharmacy, and over there, opioid task force. Is it going?
It's trying.
Okay. And if not, it's okay. Y'all can still go on. But she does like a really quick little train, with the Narcan. She like adds it out. So when she does an imperfect person, she'll like, you just saved a life. And yeah, so if we can't, that's okay.
It's still just kind of spinning.
Okay.
If we can watch it later. Maybe.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. And
Oh,
You're still paying for electricity this year.
probably add. Yeah, advertisement. Yeah, again, it's a really quick one, and what we know is that a lot of times people are really hesitant to use the Narcan if they haven't been trained on it. So this is an effort to at least get like real quick. It's easy to do. The little things look like if you've ever had migraines before, And like, Imitrex used to be those little nasal things. They're horrible because they go down back to your throat and taste awful. But it's really just like a little, you can open it if you want to. One little squirt, and they don't have to inhale it. You just squeeze their their nose together because there's enough capillaries in the nasal passages to absorb the naloxone. Basically, the naloxone, opioids have a receptor. I'm trying not to get too biological because I know there's nurses. So, there's a receptor in your neurons, and for opioids are usually bathing it if you are in a situation. Naloxone, when it's reduced, it knocks that opioid off of the receptor and takes the place of the receptor, but not forever, right? You gotta get some medical help because that wears off. And the opioid is still sitting there waiting to come make its way back onto that receptor. So that's where there's always two in there. And I was talking with deputy here earlier about Dr. Joy saying that they're actually producing the double amount of those because the single doses are not waking up people. So each of those boxes contains two doses. So so 4 milligrams, and now they're being created to 8 with the 4 spores. So, yeah, if y'all have questions, there are a few other slides after that. But they've got resources on it. You can go on and click and take your HHSC. TEA has a link on there on the addressing fentanyl.
Thank you.
No problem.
It's very detailed, thank you
Yeah,
very
right.
much. We need that, wish we had more time to hear more, but I will send the presentation to you guys via email, so there'll be two. She has a PowerPoint and a Word document with the mock bedroom attached to that. So, and just a side note, in some ways, I kind of equate the process of giving Narcan like an EpiPen. So some of you guys have taken my CPR class, and EpiPen is a pen that you just, you pop it and inject, and Narcan in some sense is very similar to that. They make it easy for the lay person to give. So you don't necessarily, as long as you're trained on the process of how to give it, you don't necessarily have to be a medical professional to give it. Our district does not currently have a sort of Narcan policy, so we do not keep that in our clinics like we keep EpiPens. So at this time, that's something that, like Melissa mentioned, Conroe ISD does that, and I've been in meetings with their nurses and trying to kind of hear what all they're doing to set their policy in place. So that may be something down the road for us, but of course that'd have to be board approved. But the SROs are carrying it. So we do have, 4, so we're blessed to have them around for that if we have an emergency. So, okay, our next speaker is Michelle Garcia, and she's with Tri-County. And so I'm excited to hear. She's been with our group for a long time, so I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to hear what she provides.
So, this should be starting for me. So, if you have any questions, then you have to sit in. I'm talking about the CRC today about the community resource coordination group. We happen to Walker County. And so, in most counties in Texas, we have some are joint, like Liberty and Chambers County work together. And so they're basically a community to bring together multiple organizations, meet and partner with people and their families to identify services and programs in the area. And so the purpose of the CRCG is to connect people with complex needs to services in their community. So bring together those key players in the community because we don't know all the resources in this country. And so if you have somebody that you're struggling, like I don't know how I don't know what the next step is, we may be looking for residential treatment, there's a lot of concerns with the school environment, things like that, you can refer to your local CRTG. And I can send out the referral form to us, but you just fill this out with the family, it comes back to me. And then, we have a meeting every month, the fourth Tuesday, and we're doing virtual and in person currently. And we just come together, the referring agency will give a little rundown of what's going on, what services are being looked for. And then the family will talk a little bit too. We can have a CRTC talking for kiddos, but also for adults. And a lot of times we also have agencies who have as kind of like a stepping stone. So like with probation, juvenile services, we have a diversion program, and so it's House Bill 1204, and it's kind of changed sort of what juveniles are referred, if they're under 12 years old. So if they're under 12, they kind of are staffed with our CRTG, and then get the resources, and then they don't necessarily have to go on formal. So it helps out there. For a lot of the residential treatment centers, like maybe Wiggles Center for Youth or Texas State, they like to have a CRTG first in order to see what resources they not have been used yet. Before that, they go to those higher levels of care. So some of the, and so I did the referral kind of process to give you a kind of idea. And some of the agencies that partner with us are the local mental health authority, which would be Tri-County, the LIDA, which is the local intellectual and developmental disability authority. We have HHSC, schools a lot of times will come and join, churches, just other organizations coming together to see how we can serve the individuals. I think that pretty much covers everything, what it looks like. And then at the end, after a family staff, I put it all together in a service plan for them and give it out to them. So they have that, the referring agency also has a copy. And then our confidentiality agreement covers 6 months. So if they've tried all the resources and they still need more, they can come back, we can staff them, and see what else might be there. And so there's a flyer about what CRTG is, the referral, and then I also provided Tri-County flyers for our child and youth services, and so we have walk-in clinics on Friday, 8 to 9:30. The families can just come in, it lists the documents that we need, and we can get services started that way. So a lot of times when folks come in for a CRTG, some of them haven't been connected to mental health services in the area yet, so Tri-County might be a first step for them. And the documents listed are important. A lot of times, what becomes a barrier is not having the right custody document. So those are pretty important, just to make sure we know who has the right to consent for their services.
Thanks, Michelle. So we have had a few families from New Waverly, in fact, that have accessed their services. So definitely very important part. They play a very important part. And then Madison Jackson is also from Tri-County. I'm going to let her talk to you about their services.
Hello, and good morning. I am the youth substance abuse prevention manager from Tri-County Healthcare. I have 3 of my prevention specialists with me, typically a team of 7, so I have 3 prevention specialists in our 2 programs. We have a youth prevention selective program that is with students that are at risk of developing behavioral problems, or they are at risk of substance abuse disorder. And then we have a youth prevention universal program, and that they see kids that they don't take into regard if they have any behavioral problems or if they're using it, so it's just general population. We do the universal program, and you can ISD with all the 6th graders in the same ISD, and then we do a selective program and they are individually intermediate right now. We will students there. We also offer presentations, along with the presentations that we offer. The biggest one right now is vaping, whether that is tobacco or anything else added in. We also get a lot of requests for conflict resolution. We talk a lot about conflict resolution with the kids, and we are in like PAEPs right now, 5 or 6 PAEPs that get us gotten in trouble for vaping or gotten in trouble for fighting, and we see them and we do lessons with them as well. We go to community resource fairs, or we go to school fairs, we can present to staff. We can do adult informational, so we do parent nights as well. We just did a parent night with Montgomery ISD, and then we did a parent resource video with Will ISD as well. So we are available. We love to go out and see the kids. We like to talk to adults to give you information. I have a brochure that lists all of our services, and then it also has a list of all of the presentations that we do. This list is not complete because we've added a lot into our services that are around. And my contact information is on there as well. I can send you, I have a PowerPoint, but I can send that to you, just which is basically like everything that we do.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. Thank y'all very much. I just wanted to give you guys an overview of some of these outside community resources that we work with and that we refer our students to, so that you guys know that y'all are a part of that as well, being on the SHAC committee. That we obviously are priority for our students. Our goal of SHAC is, their health and safety. So again, just to kind of give you an overview of what's outside of our little community here in town. Okay, we're gonna real quickly, we've got just a few minutes left to move on to the Health and Safety Summit. I wanted to give you guys an update on that. So this year we are rotating to the junior high. The junior high has not had the summit for, I think, about 3 years because of COVID. I think the last time we were there was 2019, possibly. So they are overdue for the summit. The date is May 19th, and it is an all-day event. So we are bringing in speakers from the community and on a wide variety of topics. And these topics were needs that were expressed by the campus, specific to their students, specific to this age group. This is kind of a tough age group, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So we really wanted to focus on what would they be receptive to and what do they need, what's emergent in their life. So some of the working topics I've listed for you guys here. The ones that I have question marks by are ones that I have not confirmed yet. And I've got a couple of resources or a couple of phone calls out and emails out, just waiting to hear back from the individuals. But one that I wanted to identify was the human trafficking from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. This was really popular last year at the high school when we had the summit at the high school last year, the event. So they have graciously volunteered to return, but that one was a very popular one. A lot of the content within these topics is actually part of the content through our human sexuality education curriculum that the state has now tasked us with, rolling out to our students. So we're hoping that kind of a bucket of that content will be presented in a sort of easygoing manner for these students. And that way, again, just have it be for them to be receptive to what we're presenting out there. A couple of the other, you may remember if you were here at the meeting, Stephanie Dewars, the mental health specialist for Region 6 and Tri-County. She is going to present on mental health and wellness for our students. And then again, just some other areas that you can look through. The other part of the Health and Safety Summit are vendors and donations. So that's something that I've been working on. I do have existing relationships with vendors we've used before in the past, but for those of you that may not be familiar with that, we do provide breakfast, lunch, and snacks for our speakers, since we are asking them to donate an entire day to being on our campus, to being in our district. So thought that's the least we can do because I can't pay you. So that's the least we can do to thank them for coming to spend their time with us. The central office also donates funds for that as well. But Josh Slott with the New Waverly Fire Department, they bring in drinks, and we also ask Beta Club and sometimes staff, if they're willing to, bring a dish or bring a dessert, that type of thing. I've contacted Ms. Hardy, who's our Beta Club student sponsor at the junior high, and she is definitely willing to let our Beta Club students serve as welcome ambassadors. So what their role will be is when the speakers arrive, they'll escort speakers to their classrooms. They'll show them where the restroom is, where a hospitality room is, and give an introduction each time a group rotates through the classroom. So it gives them as well some leadership experience, some public speaking experience that they can tap into. So I always like using students for that role. And then lastly, advertisement. We really try to push the event out to families so that they know what's going on. We advertise on the campus Facebook page, the district website. So you guys will start to see some of that as we get closer to the date. What I like to ask SHAC members, and you'll get this again through email, is that if you are willing, if you have time to be there on that day, we'd love to have you. You're more than welcome to sit in on the presentations, to bring food, drinks, anything like that to help us with putting this together, because it is SHAC sponsored and it is probably one of our bigger events annually. So but just reach out to me. You guys know how to contact me. And if you want to play a role, we really appreciate that. Just to give you again, just a quick yearly recap. Again, this is our last meeting, and I just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of what all we did in only 4 meetings. At minimum, we're only required by the state to meet 4 times. We could meet more, but you guys are busy, but we really did pack it in. Of course, our sort of 2 big things that we did this year was getting the human sexuality education curriculum approved. And again, that's a state curriculum that we're required to push out there, but we have to get board approval. And I want to thank Ms. Brock because she was big instrumental in that and helping me bring that to you guys and then bring it also to our families. Of course, from our last meeting, the wellness policy and plan was updated. We are required to update that about every 3 years. So this was, again, with COVID, we were a little bit late, but that's okay. But we got it updated. And I appreciate the 2 work groups that comprise the nutrition part of it and the physical activity. So thank you guys for your work with that. We did get school safety updates from Mr. Reese, who's our school safety committee chair. And so appreciate those updates. Of course, the Health and Safety Summit towards the end of the year. We did add, although they're not here today, but we did add 2 student representatives, Hanaya Norrell and Callaway Edney, to our group. They are students at the high school. So going forward, our plan is we'll always have a junior and a senior so that when the senior rotates off, of course, for graduation, the junior becomes the senior, and then we'll bring in a junior for the following year. So you'll see Callaway next year because she is a junior. So the other thing that I was really pleased with was that we really increased our collaboration with our community stakeholders. So with DSHS, Melissa, Tri-County, I was really pleased that we were able to bring in those community members to give you guys an idea of what's been going on. My primary goal, one of my primary goals for next year, and I always say this at our very first SHAC meeting, is we'd really like to increase parent involvement in our meeting, because technically what the state prefers is to have a parent, not a staff member parent, but a parent be the chair of SHAC and have more involvement, because it is a community group comprised of parents, community stakeholders, and staff. So if you have parents that you think would be interested in joining our group, please encourage them, send their names to me and I'll reach out to them. But we'd really like to get that sort of portion of our membership up. It seems like the first 2 meetings of the year, we usually get pretty good participation, and by the end of the year, it kind of dies off, but that's okay. That's pretty typical. But just if you guys could keep that in the back of your mind for next year. And then, of course, we did have presentations and reports from Child Nutrition Services. So Ms. Gregory came in and talked to us. The Mike and KC, our SROs have come in. And then we've had mental health services from our reps at Region 6 and Tri-County. So that's kind of it in a nutshell in terms of our year in review. Again, this is our last meeting, so thank you guys so much for participating, giving of your time and coming in and, you know, just really supporting SHAC. So going forward, as I have here in the I'm going to need you guys to approve via email so that I can post the minutes on the district website. I can't post until we get like a motion, second motion and approval of the minutes technically. So any questions or anything before we head out?
I just want to thank you for being the chairman and putting it all together. It takes a lot of work.
Thank you very much. Couldn't do it without you guys. So. All right, well, wishing you guys a good rest of the school year and summer until we meet again. You'll get another email from me probably next fall. And I think for you guys, does it seem like the meeting dates work for you guys? Because typically we meet October, November, then February and March. We tried to make sure we avoided testing times and, you know, beginning of school and end of school months. So does that seem to satisfy everyone's schedules? Okay. And then we'll probably talk about times and see again what works best for you guys. So, all right, please take some food on your way out and thank y'all again.